if you don't learn to make that time to connect the feeling to a thought or thought to a feeling, then we are just reactive automatically. It just we're bypassing something. And hence we are not learning anything about the selves, be it whether we hiding or whether we're running. And sometimes sometimes that's all we can do. And so I invite that. I educate people on what those thoughts, as you said, so lower frequency, if you will, and higher frequency, that those are adaptation, a lot of adaptation mechanisms that we adapted, as you say, as a trauma response to either an event or an event that should have happened but it didn't happen, or I again ask permission. Would you like me to share that, just to expand the perspective, because we cannot know what we do not know.
Welcome to the Daily Soul Bytes Show. I am your host, Bolaabimbola, frequency alchemist, intuitive life coach, and energy practitioner. Daily Soul Bytes is where we have guest authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs from the fields of spirituality, psychology, and leadership who share their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And today I have a very special guest, very close to me here in the UK, right here in the UK with me. Her name is Lina Jan. Welcome to the show, Lina.
Hi, Bola. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Let me read your bio, Lina. Lina Jan is a psychologist, a life coach, and a NeuroDynamic Breathwork facilitator. She helps individuals really rediscover their innate resourcefulness and find meaning in the everyday. I think that is really powerful. A very long bio, but I'm just going to stop there and I'm going to dig into much more about the work you do. I know we're in very similar industries. So, in fact, we're in the same industry, but you have a number of modalities that I'd love to know more about. But first of all, tell us what brought you to this place. How did you come to become very passionate about spirituality, and not only for your own personal self, but also to help others? Where did this begin for you?
Oh, that's a question probably as old as life. I can't pinpoint where it began, but I think 11, 12 years ago, I was very, all my life up to that point, I was very righteous on my narrow path, with a very narrow self image. Hence, I imagined myself this is where I'm going, this is what I'm like, this is how I react in these situations, this is how I act in these situations, and these are my values, and these are my, but it wasn't even the values, it was, these are my principles type thing. And one day, I was about to say out of the blue, but as I just said previously, that I think, I don't believe it was out of the blue, it's just something that I wasn't aware of. I just woke up with this immense, immense anxiety, without any obvious trigger, without anything. And so for the next 7 to 8 days, I was so anxious, and on the inside, I was just shiver on the inside, cold from the inside, but I would sweat on the outside. I would have 4, 5, 6 showers a day trying to wash it off me. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep at all. I would sleep for 30 minutes if lucky, very restless. And I found myself being curious about the experience. And for a little bit, maybe I wondered what's going on. Why am I so anxious? But then I, looking for content. But then I thought, no, you know what? I'm just going to observe the actual experience.
Are you looking for AAA grade jewelry or gemstones? Utter Spirit are those we will recommend. They actually do really wonderful jewelry. They have gifted me really nice lapis lazuli, which is really good for connecting with universal wisdom, and also this shungite beads, which come from Russia, and they're really rare because a lot of the times you get shungite beads which affect your skin, and these beads have been really nice. My son also loves them, and Utter Spirit, they give back to nature as well. So that is really nice that they are contributing to the environment, and they also send this intention cards. They're quite nice. This shungite card says, I cleanse myself from harmful energies. And the lapis lazuli card says, I am connected to the infinite wisdom of the universe. So there's information that goes with it, as well as them, producing really good quality jewelry. So I will recommend to connect with Utter Spirit. And the code will be going with this video. So check them out.
When that eased off eventually, just on its own, came and went, I found myself, and it's only upon reflection that I recognize that I suddenly became a lot more permissive to myself to be human and not a robot that I fancied myself to be up to that point. And from there, it just things, naturally you look up something on internet and the algorithm does its job, it takes you there, then your conversations start changing with other people, and yeah.
I love that. Yes, it's always like stepping stones. You start off somewhere and then you get curious and then you follow it through. So is this something that happened in your teens or in your 30s or early on in childhood?
I think I must have been about 28, 29 years old. So yeah, it's adulthood, but depending on who you ask, some would say young adult, some others would just say an adult.
I love that. I love that. No, thank you for sharing that. And I'd love to know more about spirituality, how you define it. I know it's a huge part of your work. How would you define spirituality?
I did look at some different sources of how they define, be it in research setting, be it in a different setting, like spiritual spaces and things like that. And what I found, they all differ, but what I found that most of them have in common is that it is said that spirituality is basically recognizing or accepting something beyond which can be sensed with sensory, received as sensory information. So be it, visual, auditory, or tactile, touch, anything. So basically it's a belief. That's a commonality between the different sort of definitions of spirituality that I looked at, and just from how I felt reading them, literally in myself, I thought, no, you know what, that does not resonate with me. That clashed, because I think that for me, actually, spirituality begins in the sense, with the sensing, with the feeling, with the sensing in our physiology, and I suppose ultimately it translates into felt connection, sense connection to outside of yourself. The boundary between myself and supposedly not myself is much blurrier than we believe in the everyday life, or then we treat it in the everyday life. So for me, spirituality begins from having felt and in sensory terms, that's connection, and then from there, because obviously that felt sense, then it fades with time after you had the experience of it. But that knowing which you experienced does not, it remains, you intellectually know then, even though the feeling kind of goes away. But when you practice it, obviously, then you then feel it, you come into it much quicker. And then that knowing just becomes more and more. And so that spirituality, ultimately, that embodied, felt sense of being one with everything around you.
I love that. Yes, yes. Honestly, I love it when you said there is a point when you do realize that you are more than that physical being, that physical self. And because I am a caregiver, I've been parenting neurodivergence as well as my elderly friends and relatives for over 30 years. And this is something that I feel spirituality is something that I know really helps us as caregivers, because we really come to understand the meaning behind this path, this theme we've come to explore. Because caregiving is not something that goes away. You get handed it either from the birth of your child, or it could be sudden. Your parents getting older, or your sibling or your partner suddenly requiring a different type of relationship. And it's a very relentless theme for us to explore. And I always think that for me, one of the really important aspects was embracing my spirituality, as well as understanding those parts within my own self that allowed me to understand the meaning, to align to it, and to embody it within my own self, until I came to a place where I actually did not even feel those selves. I was now in a place of nothingness. So I was not really aligning to any of those parts, any of those selves. I get on with my day to day, but it's about how I begin to really see those selves as means to an end and still enjoy life. And I know that a lot of your work is about supporting your clients to understand the meaning of life, of everyday life. And I would love you to share with us, Lina, what are the things that can be expected of you when your clients come to see you, to understand how they can really embody more meaning in their day to day?
It's probably through examples that I would find it the easiest to answer this question. So a lot of people that come to me, I have so often, so frequently, when they feel safe enough to go on the free flow talking, free flow letting go what's going, not the most private mind wanderings, and they will say something, and then they will turn around and they will say, "Oh, this is just stupid. Ignore that. I know this is all BS." And so they will say something that's been on their mind, whether it came to them in that flow, or whether it's been on their mind, playing on their mind for a while, and then they immediately retract because they are so because the thing that they think or feel is somewhat outside of the mainstream narrative, and hence they almost chastise themselves for having even felt that or said that or thought that, and they just retract and they're like, no, ignore that, that's nonsense. And these are the moments where my place is to listen and be open. And what helps me to be that, and to be open and to listen, to encourage them, so they actually really, really feel that there's room to explore that, rather than just me saying it for the sake of saying it because that's my role. Like, no, let's explore. It is because I'm curious. I am a naturally curious person as well, and I entertain. I am not attached to any one idea of reality, and I think a lot of them makes a lot of sense when you look into them, and hence I'm not attached to any. So I think that really helps for me to be open and to give that really safe space for people to explore that, and not just safe, but really encouraging in terms that because I am curious and because that also interests me, all these kind of mind wanderings. I think that these are the main things. So the safety and my curiosity, which gives them permission to go wherever they want to go.
Thank you for that. I love it when you say feeling safe, because a lot of the times there's nothing on the outside of us that allows us to feel safe. A lot of the times we've been through, each and every one of us will have some experience, whether it's a direct traumatic experience or an indirect one. There will be something that we will hold in our mind, in our body, or in spirit that really lets us feel a little bit unsafe or very unsafe, or literally feeling like we need to escape. If you were to have, say, somebody who was going through a very traumatic time in their life, a lot of the times that ego self is running helter-skelter with a lot of different narratives, and you've got the inner critic. And, there are lots of modalities that really, do different things at different times. Which modalities do you use to really enable your clients? You already mentioned that, yes, you would definitely allow them to feel free to explore those thoughts that are racing through the minds. And you also are very curious, and you're supporting them to allow those thoughts to be, so they can align. Because that's what my book is about, Daily Soul Bytes. Daily Soul Bytes, I wrote in 2020, and it was published by Barbara Press, a division of A House, in 2023. And it's talking about the different perspectives that we have within us. Sometimes a thought comes to our mind and we think we only have that one thought. But then when we allow, we can also find another thought, and it's usually a higher perspective, one based on love, as opposed to the perspective that is based on fear or survival. And having those two perspectives and knowing that they all exist, a range of perspectives exist in our minds, and it's really about what we choose to align to, and making that choice something that is more conscious to us. But the first thing is a self-awareness, knowing that we have those two thoughts. So when you're working with your clients, to someone who's gone through a lot of trauma, and they've got a lot of thoughts, they may be low perspective thoughts on fear or higher perspective thoughts. How do you support them to find that meaning, which is a higher perspective, a higher spiritual perspective? How, maybe 1, 2, 3 steps. And, I know you do breath work. You also do a number of other modalities. Could you tell us a bit about how you support your clients to find that meaning through the perspectives, through that mayhem that that exists in that very dense ego selves?
Two broad things I think that I would say. So one, definitely breath work. So I invite them to really feel into what each thought, what is the feeling associated with this, each thought, both the feeling and the sensation. And sometimes people don't have the word for it. Often people don't have the word for it. I don't have the words for all the feelings and sensations. I don't think they exist. But that is the first thing, just to help them ground, really, and to help them connect the thought to the feeling. because I think that there is a lot, the thoughts, if you don't learn to make that time to connect the feeling to a thought or thought to a feeling, then we are just reactive automatically. It just we're bypassing something. And hence we are not learning anything about the selves, be it whether we're hiding or whether we're running. And sometimes sometimes that's all we can do. And so I invite that, but this is always because all my sessions are absolutely client-led. So all my invitations to the client is, I will propose something, but you check in with yourself, close your eyes if you have to, because, and I will say that, close your eyes if you have to, because, visual information coming in through your eyes really takes up a lot of room in your cortex. Hence, checking in with yourself and the other senses is much harder. And I explain that just so people understand why they're doing it, and so they can take it outside of the session as well, so they understand why something is done and how it's helping them. And I ask them to check in with themselves, whether they have the resources at that moment in time to feel into it. And depending on whether they do or whether they don't, then the session goes. If they don't, then I ask where they would like to go and remind them later that whenever they want to come back to whatever scared them, for example, or whatever put them off, that they can bring it back anytime. If they did decide to feel into it, if they felt that they are resourceful enough at that moment in time, and then that they have time to process it after as well, and to integrate whatever it is that they found, then we'll go further, exploring where it feels, how it feels, what does it indicate. And also another thing I do as part of my coaching, and not just as part, I do it separately on its own, but I educate people on what those thoughts, as you said, so lower frequency, if you will, and higher frequency, that those are a lot of adaptation mechanisms that we adapted, as you say, as a trauma response to either an event or an event that should have happened but it didn't happen, or I again ask permission, would you like me to share that, just to expand the perspective, because we cannot know what we do not know. So those are the two main things, really, the grounding with permission, and offering an expansion of perspective with permission.
I love that. I love the space that you create, because that space is so important in order for anyone who is needing to shift perspectives. That space is important for us to give ourselves the permission to do it, because we are our own transformations. We can only shift what we are ready to shift, what we feel empowered to shift, what we feel loved to shift. And we need that space, we need that container in order for us to give ourselves permission to do it. Because I know in your work, you mention a lot of every day comes up a lot in your bio. And I wanted to touch on that, because on any particular day, we have embodied something. Sometimes we think we haven't embodied. We are embodied beings. We're either embodying shadow or embodying light. And we can sometimes learn what we are embodying and unlearn in order for us to embody something that will give us better outcomes, if we choose. But I wanted to talk a lot more about embodiment, because when, as a being, you are understanding the perspectives, you are having tools like breath work, grounding, And you have a busy day, morning, afternoon, night time. There's lots going on in anyone's day to day. How can we begin to embody that much more empowered perspective of love? Because there is nothing that manifests in our day to day that doesn't take account of what we are embodying, which is our state of being. What we are embodying is what creates whatever it is that is going on around us. And when we have a traumatic or a difficult relationship or a challenging situation, it's because there's some parts of us that is embodying some of that trauma, and we can come to unlearn it. But how do we come to become very conscious of what we are embodying? I'll start with, what is embodiment, and how do you support your clients to become much more aware of what they are embodying within them?
This is a never-ending journey. So it's a never-ending practice, actually. So it's not something that, in my opinion, that one achieves, ticks off, and that's done. And for me, embodiment is felt sense of what's going on. That's where it starts. How to reconnect my own mind to my body. Because I had after a difficult period, which when it came, I brought it to an end about 2 or 3 months after I found myself with rheumatoid arthritis symptoms. And I looked it up, it all matched, then I got the investigations done, it was confirmed, yes, it was. And nobody really fully knows how it comes about. It's an autoimmune disease, which the predominant hypothesis is that what triggers it is chronic stress, exposure to chronic stress. And the situation that I eventually brought to an end and left, that was a long period of being in survival mode. I didn't know that. Because in my head, I had all the strategies, all the reframing, rephrasing, planning. I was dealing with the situation in my head, and I dealt with it, and that's fair enough. Sometimes we just have to. We can't tend to ourselves because we need to continue moving, and hence we have to. But the thing is, whilst we're doing that, whilst we busy organizing our next step, we suppress, we delay a lot of things that are happening in our body. All the emotions, the anxiety symptoms, things as, for example, acid eating away at your food pipe, and the tension that accumulates, which you then, in the morning you wake up with a pain in your arm because you went to bed with a lot of tension in your shoulders that you didn't even realize you had, because in your head you're dealing with it, and you have to as well, you can't. So, and that's when I learned that I was really disconnected, because I did not realize how much chronic tension I was carrying for a long time. And it's only when I again found myself safe, and when slowly started relaxing, then my body showed the signs. And I did not realize, I did not notice, I did not know, I was just fine. And that's when I started looking for how to reconnect the mind and body, and for everything, not just because a lot of course, in these spaces we talk a lot about the negative things, or the things that impacted us negatively, and hence the unpleasant emotions, unpleasant feelings, and fallout that comes from it. But also, we lose the ability to feel joy, because joy is in the body. Love is in the body, joy is in the body, anxiety is in the body, awe is in the body. everything's, all of that is in the body, not just in our minds. And then we just lose the access to it because we suppressed it for so long, because we possibly we had to. So really what another, both in my coaching, but that just comes up, it naturally comes up, and it naturally is incorporated in that. But that's what my workshops and my psychoeducation really focuses on. It's the tools for people to not lose that connection and to really regulate their nervous system on the go. Because there are times, as you said earlier, you used the word relentless, and that really resonated so deeply with me. Because it can feel relentless, and simply someone saying, oh, you need more sleep, or sometimes you just want to go and strangle them, because I know I need more sleep. I want more sleep. Can you organize me 30 hours in a day? Because that's just a situation. We are affected, the systems, we are limited by the systems, and we have to survive in the systems that are not built for our thriving. So hence sometimes we just need, whilst we go in, until we get to the place where we can really get more sleep, where we can invest time into self-care and explore what self-care means to us, because for each of us it's individual. Until we get to that place, we have to survive to get to that place. So it's really a lot of these embodiment practice tools that can literally be done, in the meeting room, in the lift, in the toilet, if you can't, wherever it is, in the supermarket whilst you're waiting to pay. So like breathing exercises or little sensory exercises that nobody will know you're doing, nobody will see you're doing them, or little tactile sensory exercises, just to ground, to just really get that parasympathetic nervous system kick in, and to break the cycle, to break the vicious cycle of the stress response. Whilst the thoughts immediately may not change, because the situation still is what it is, you have to deal with. But in terms of nervous system, it will interrupt the physiological symptoms and processes of that stress response. And so it does that, and it does another function, that it really helps you to become better tuned in. So with practice, with time, you notice it quicker, which that's what was I lost. I did not know for a long time that I was carrying the tension and all the whole stress response in my body. I did not realize that my shoulders were up and tense, that my jaw was always tense, that I simply did not realize. So I needed to really rebuild that relationship to notice quicker, so I can help myself quicker. So those tools do have kind of a dual function, if you will.
And you're so right, because it starts from day one. It starts from when we become interested and curious, and it carries on. That journey of rewiring that nervous system carries on, and we find ourselves being able to embody more and more light, more and more of a parasympathetic nervous system. We find ourselves more grounded, bit by bit. But it's a rewiring, it's a practice. But nobody, I always say, goes through a place where they no longer have anything to rewire, because that external system is constantly barraging, constantly pouring out all kinds of things. And there are different layers of us that we're constantly coming across with. So it just gets easier to rewire. It gets easier to switch into, into that higher state of being. I would love to talk a bit more about meaning, Lina, because when we're in that relentless life, when we're in this relentless life, it may not be so easy to to identify meaning. Could you give us some examples of some of the things that some of your clients or those you have worked with, an example of what someone has been through who our audience may relate to, and how you help them to find that meaning? Just a couple of examples.
Because my work involves a lot of mind-body connection, these tools that they learn and then apply, and they see them working for them. A lot of times they eventually become frustrated because they think, well, I know all this now, so why is this still happening to me? And then we have to we go into that conversation that it is never going to stop happening because of the external factors as well. So the meaning of these things, this is information for you to notice, to then address quicker in terms of the meanings of what the body is sending them the signals. A lot of my clients, they come from the so-called rat race. What's the point of this? And it's not getting any better in terms of how they are feeling. Our prerogative here in this incarnation, maybe, I don't know whether incarnation, why not, is just to enjoy ourselves. And when I say enjoy ourselves, I don't necessarily mean the hedonistic ways of living, because it's we build and build and build something, and we live in tomorrow constantly. We live in tomorrow. We don't live in today. We operate often like machines in today, but we live in tomorrow. And a lot of times people, because when it's relentless and it's going and they achieving, they get in there, they achieving, they have things to show for it, but they're still lacking here inside something. Because all of that, our culture, our narratives, that it's all, and I mean, this has been spoken millions of times about, but it is a very simple truth, that the meaning, that's what we've been told what's meaningful, status, acquisition of wealth, acquisition of status through certain careers or things like that, and when we continue on achieving that, but here it just gets emptier and emptier, because those things are never going to fill up here inside. That's the people are lost for meaning, because what they've been told that the meaning was, they find that's not providing them with the fulfillment, and hence they haven't got any other reference point. What is the point? What else? What meaning is there? Because I'm doing everything right, everything's seemingly going all right, but why am I feeling like I'm feeling? And that's because of that gap, and because the cultural narrative put a really, really narrow meaning on the meaning of life, and so it's just exploring, giving people permission to really just enjoy themselves, just to do what feels good for them, and to break that illusion that everything has to serve a purpose, that everything they do has to serve a purpose. That's the purpose that we, as we are being socialized, we internalize. So the purpose is to climb the career ladder, for example, and And if whatever it is that gives you joy, or would give you joy if you were to do that, if you don't see it as something that will further your career, with this example, you don't do it, because there's no your own personal meanings, they kind of you dismiss them. So it's just giving people permission to reconnect with their own meanings. So it's not even, it is within them. I fully believe that we are all have our meanings within them, but we've been so layered like onions by those, things from the outside laid on us from very early age, that we cannot reconnect with it, rediscover it. I emphasize, just give yourself permission. You entertaining that thought or that feeling, don't make of it any more than it is. It is just you entertaining that thought or that feeling. Don't shy away from it, from entertaining it. And then you can weigh up how it fits within where you're at in your life, how it fits with your circumstances, whether you can permit yourself to act on it now, or whether you can't now because of your circumstances, but you would like to work towards it with that in mind, that it's, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Honestly, I love the conversation around meaning, because I know that for me, the meaning that I came to understand that inspired me, because I believe meaning, finding something that is going to inspire us in a way that gives us a sense of peace. This for me is what meaning is.
Peace.
Something that inspires me, that gives me a sense of peace, that helps me calm down that really fight or flight within me, because there is a part of us that holds this inspiration, this inspired idea, inspired thought. And for me, what it was being a caregiver. I found that I have come to really understand strength in the midst of turmoil, to really come to know that my worth is never touched by anything that I see or taste or do or say. My worth is not touched by any of that or any of those things. My worth remains intact. And sometimes we have to go through the storm in order to come to that place where we own ourselves no matter what. So I understand the work you're doing to help those who are going through that day-to-day turmoil find some meaning, something that inspires them in their day-to-day. And I know that I would have definitely loved for you to do a lot more with us today. But, we have to go. And thank you so much, Lina. Where can people find you when they want to connect with you?
Well, I will move on to that in a second, but I just really have to say now, when you said that word peace, to give you peace, the way my body reacted, it was the resonance of it was, I just wanted to scream, yes. That word, you said peace is the one that is what we're looking for ultimately, isn't it? Peace and calm. And so I just really wanted to say that when you said it, I was like, my whole body was, yes, moved forward. Right, to find me, I am on LinkedIn by the name of Lina Jan, Lina and then Jan. I am also on Facebook and Instagram, and by the name of the Unalome Breath. So that's the breathwork arm of my practice, and the Unalome is I have to think about it now. UNAL for Lima, OM for Mother E. The Unalome breath, and that's where I can be found.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Lina.
Thank you, Bola. I really enjoyed this conversation, and really thank you for making space for it, and for having these conversations, because I'm coming away fired up. So
Beautiful.
thank you.
Beautiful. So am I, Lina. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our audience for being supportive of us. We really appreciate this. I would love you to connect with me even more and connect with Lina to find that deeper meaning in that everyday life. This is what it's all about. And I will ask you to subscribe. Subscribe to Daily Soul Bytes Show. We always have exciting episodes every Wednesday. Thank you again, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Daily Soul Bytes Show. Bye bye.